When we talk about Sirian star beings, we're really talking about Lyrans and Vegans who relocated, at least at first. Lyrans are widely considered as our galactic ancestors. Once physical beings were created by the founders and established stability within the Lyran system, the first group to develop a specifically non-Lyran species was the Vegan civilization. If you've heard anything of the galactic origin story, specifically the Lyran Wars, then you know that things were good until they weren't. Disagreements turned into conflict, conflict turned into war, then shots were fired. Pew, 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 pew. Destruction and chaos ensued. Then evacuation and relocation became necessary for survival. Keep this in mind as we go deeper into the Sirian star beings. Hey, I'm Kellie. I'm currently building out a complete galactic astrology video series for all Sirian starseeds, making separate videos for each of the 3 lineages in the Sirius star family through all 12 houses. So Sirius-A, Sirius-B, and even a dedicated video to Sirius-C starseeds. While doing this and putting the material together, I realized it would help keep those 3 videos I just mentioned more concise and focused if I do a quick summary video for context and background before getting into each of the individual lineages. This is that video. One of my goals for you with this video, other than giving good context for the Sirius star family, is to highlight for you that as a galactic astrologer, it's important for me to understand the background of a star race when doing client reading, because understanding the why behind each of their qualities, gifts, and challenges helps me better explain to clients the various manifestations of these things in your unique chart and how they may express through your life. Sirius is a trinary star system consisting of Sirius-A, Sirius-B, also called Mirzam, and Sirius-C. Although science hasn't officially confirmed Sirius-C due to the difficulty with exact measurements, etc., they have acknowledged that there is a perturbation in the orbits of Sirius-A and B that would indicate the presence of another star or celestial body. This is something the Dogon tribe in Mali, West Africa, have known for generations. Sirius-A and B are said to have a 50-year orbital period, and the Dogon tribe celebrate this celestial dance with their own dance. They call it the Sigi Festival, and it happens every 50 years to coincide with this orbital period. Fun fact, the Dogon tribe refers to Sirius-A as Sigi Tolo, Sirius-B as Potolo, and Sirius-C as Emeya Tolo. Obviously, there are a ton of sources, online and otherwise, for the galactic history and channeled insights on Sirius Starseeds, as this is one of the most widely known and discussed of all star races. One of my go-to resources for galactic and starseed knowledge is a book called The Prism of Lyra by Lyssa Holt, which most of you are likely familiar with, and many of you probably have that book already. I also have her galactic heritage cards and use those almost as much as her book, The Prism of Lyra. If you don't already have these resources, I've left a link in the description for you to check out, but I highly recommend them to spark your own intuitive connection to the various star families. After all, this is your cosmic history too. As we get into the breakdown now of the galactic history or the galactic mythology around the Sirians, just a reminder, when we talk about the Sirians, we're really talking about the Lyrans and Vegans who relocated. In galactic mythology, Lyssa Holt maps out the journey of our cosmic ancestors. She gives a great summary of how it moves from Lyra down into Sirius, then into Orion, then the Pleiades, then Arcturus, and beyond. Sirius was one of the first stops for Lyran and Vegan refugees after the conflicts led to the destruction of a homeworld. Because Sirius is a trinary system, it represented to the founders the opportunity for integration of the polarity that grew in the Lyra system. After the infusion, many consciousnesses who remained non-physical became drawn to the Sirius system and started laying the groundwork for the coming role Sirius would play in the unfolding cosmic drama. This group of non-physical Sirians had the ability to create suitable realms for all manifestations of consciousness. Thus, they became known as the Elders of Sirius. Okay, back to my point about Sirians being Lyrans and Vegans who relocated. After the star beings and the Vega civilization developed their own preferences and ways of life, they began to isolate themselves from the original Lyran group. As Lyssa describes it, the Vegans were initially more negatively oriented and adopted a service to self philosophy. They were highly polarized towards the masculine energetic expression, nothing to do with gender. Their growing philosophy of wanting to dominate their environment and control their evolution was making it harder and harder for them to maintain within the 4th density. So when they moved to the Sirius system, they chose physical incarnations within the 3rd dimensional density. Once this happened, they basically doubled down on their decision and cut ties to their origins. In their new existence as Sirians, their desire to forget was so consuming that they quickly lost their memory and connection to Vega. They didn't meditate, dream, or pursue creative activities. Nada. This marked their existence in the galactic mythology as one of the quote-unquote negative Sirian planets. Now for the Lyrans. The Lyrans chose to remain non-physical when they relocated to the Sirius system, and were more service to others oriented. Okay, now that you have some context, let's get into the drama. Hi. I want to take a moment to apologize to all my Virgos out there watching. I just bumped the camera. I have no idea if it's going to line up with the other shots, so oopsie, it is what it is. Now let's get into the cosmic tea. If you've done any research on the galactic history of various star families, you may notice the theme of many star races not staying in their lane, aka minding their own business. So the Vega Lyran-Sirians are no different. Now we know how and why the Lyran and Vegan star beings got to the Sirius system to begin with. So here's what happened next. I'll be using Lyssa's reference for the Lyrans as positives and the Vegans as negatives, simply for their orientation of service to self versus service to others. Here's how she describes some of the unfolding drama after they landed and settled into the Sirius system. The positives began bombarding the negatives with love and healing energy on subconscious and unconscious levels. Because the negatives were so tightly focused, physically speaking, this created psychological pain for them. The more the negatives resisted, the more the positives sent healing energy. Let's pause for a moment. Does this pattern sound familiar to you at all? Have you ever had someone try to heal you against your will or without permission? Even if they mean well, it's still not okay, is it? So getting back to the Sirians. Well, TLDR, the friction from this ongoing energetic conflict caused significant enough disruption for all consciousness in the Sirius system. So the elders of Sirius intervened, and many were rehomed to the Orion system due to its interesting electromagnetic properties. Now we have the physical Sirians, the quote-unquote negatives, remaining in the Sirius system, while the non-physical Sirians, quote-unquote positives, moved on to the Orion system. Moving forward, those who were still in the Lyran system but desired integration of this positive-negative polarity just went straight to Orion and bypassed the Sirius system altogether. Here's something cool. While most of the non-physical Lyran-Sirians, so the positives, went on to the Orion system, a very small percentage of them decided to begin incarnating physically, but they rejected taking a humanoid form. They chose a form that was more aligned and representative of their true nature, the cetaceans. Cetaceans, dolphins, and whales. Mystery schools were ancient and often secretive orders of initiation that prepared individuals to navigate both the seen and unseen worlds. The teachings basically focused on accelerated spiritual evolution. Today, there are a wide variety of beliefs and channeled information on the topic of Sirian mystery schools, along with a ton of sources to check out. Here, I'll just touch on a few key connections for context. Some of the most common Sirian visitations to various cultures on Earth include Egypt, Africa, like the Dogon tribe, and the Mayan civilization. The Sirian visitors shared advanced astronomy and medical wisdom with these cultures. Along with this, they shared metaphysical understanding and practices too, such as the technology of transmutation shared with the Mayans. Sirius mystery schools refer to a variety of esoteric and channeled teachings focused on advanced spiritual wisdom, cosmic history, and Sirian codes such as DNA activation, rather than traditional academic schools. Egyptian mysteries, which were focused on math, sacred geometry, and spirituality, originated from or were influenced by advanced star-based knowledge, including Sirius. Core teachings involved navigating spiritual realms, communication with gods, and understanding profound cosmic truths. These schools and their teachings offered a path for initiated souls to connect with the divine. Okay, one really cool example of a mystery school and initiation I found years ago is in this book, Lineage of the Codes of Light by Jessie E. Ayani. I hope I'm saying that right. In a chapter about Mary Magdalene and Jesus, this author channels a step-by-step account of the death process for Christ, which includes her journey on a Sirian ship to a healing temple on Vega, and also traveling through stargates. That's kind of cool too. I discovered this book back in 2011. At that time, I kept hearing my guides say light codes, and it was random. It was like weeks apart. It was super random, but I kept hearing them say light codes. And I'm like, what the hell are light codes? But when I looked at light codes on the internet back in 2011, all I could find was this device for, when your car shows the check engine light for like either the tires, the batteries, the engine, the oil, the brakes, whatever is not working well in your car, whatever needs attention or repair, whatever's triggering that light to come on, they call them engine light codes. So all I could find was this little device. It was like a little handheld. You plug it into under your dashboard or under your steering wheel. Maybe you don't, but your mechanic does. And you plug it in to get the codes, diagnose what's wrong, and clear the code so your engine light goes off, or the whatever light has been tripped goes off. That's all I could find. That was all the internet said about light codes. This was before light codes were a thing. So at that time, I kept hearing light codes. It still didn't go away. And I'm like, well, my engine's fine. Anyway, I couldn't find anything on the internet, didn't know what they were talking about light codes. I figured it was something spiritual. So at that time I was living in Houston and I went to this bookstore called Body, Mind, and Soul. Shout out to Body, Mind, and Soul. If you live in Houston, check them out. They've got great stuff. I walked in to see if they could help. Asked if they had heard about light codes or they knew anything about them, asked what they were. And the guy helping me was super sweet. He's like, no, sure, but let's look it up. And he looked in his little database and lo and behold, this book popped up. And when he told me the name, I was like, ooh, I don't know what that is, but I need that. For all my book nerds, let me know in the comments if you can relate. Listen, I shop for books the way most chicks shop for shoes or purses. So the book piqued my interest. The name of the book, something in me said yes, and I had him ordered. Here's an excerpt from the chapter in there titled The Priestesses of Anu. I think you'll find it interesting. Footnote, for the sake of brevity, I'm stringing together different pieces of these excerpts in a way that hopefully makes sense in the story. Normally, it would take days to die upon the cross, but the Sabbath was within hours. The crucifixions of Simon and Judas were hastened by breaking their legs, but James kept this mutilation from happening to Yeshua by suggesting the administration of poison. Simon the Magus came in disguise to administer the venom on a sponge soaked in vinegar to induce the death coma in Yeshua. When he began to slip away from this reality, Mary and I sped away to her quarters and down into the temple of Anu. I quickly consumed the same venom and journeyed out between the worlds in search of my beloved. Simon worked on the physical plane to revive Yeshua's body as I rode out through the galaxy to support his journey back to Earth. I journeyed out and found Yeshua in a healing chamber of light within a crystal temple on the planet Venus. We journeyed next to the star Sirius, where we were received in the Great White Lodge of Light. This journey opened up planetary codes within me, which allowed Yeshua to return to Earth as the Christed One to set the grid in place. When the High Council finished their discourse with us, we were taken on board a Sirian ship and transported to a star in the belt of Orion. There, we were greeted by a group of light beings who guided us to their healing temple. The Sirian ship located the Stargate, and the ship passed through it, moving deep into space toward the star Vega. On Vega, Yeshua's spirit body was healed of all illusion and any experience of separation from God or Source. We were guided back to the Sirian ship, which took us swiftly to Lyra, our star of origin in the galaxy. That's what we're talking about right now. Returning to this reality, we followed the stairs to the Sirian ship, which awaited us. We moved swiftly through the galaxy and the Stargate onto Sirius. There in the lodge, the brothers gathered from all dimensions to kneel before the one who held the light of God. From that point on, Yeshua has been an ascended master. So now you know. Cool stuff happened in the mystery schools. Now that we've covered important context, let's get into some of the various skills, gifts, qualities, and lessons for the Sirius star beings. Just to clarify, I'm not doing this through the 12 astrological houses right now in this video. This is just a preview of what will be broken down in those upcoming videos dedicated to each of the Sirian star lineages, A, B, and C. Like I said before, it's no secret that the Sirians are extremely popular and very well known. So most of these traits and qualities and lessons that we're about to look at may already be familiar to you. But I hope that at least some of these are new or helpful or insightful, or just a reminder, things you might have forgotten. Either way, this will give you a good idea of what we'll be covering in the coming few videos. Sirian Starseeds, gifts, skills, and talents. Naturally captivating and inspiring presence, strong leadership qualities with divine or spiritual focus, often the voice of reason in groups, carriers of ancient Egyptian, Atlantean, and Lemurian knowledge, ability to channel and connect with future self, could have past lives as a channel, priest, or priestess. Abilities around transitioning between states of density, extreme focus, discipline, and dedication, able to make and maintain long-term goals for multiple generations and even multiple incarnations, strong association with dolphins and whales, strong bond with Earth, devoting multiple lifetimes here, lessons and challenges, tendency to repress emotions, balancing personal desires with higher ideals, past life karmic imprints of clinging to secrets as a control mechanism, learning the difference between personal privacy and keeping secrets, need to come out of the shadows and work openly without fear, balancing enthusiasm with patience for wisdom and foresight, avoiding short-sighted actions that create mistakes, learning to accept roles of leadership, mission and purpose, evolution of the human race. On a quick side note, I know this is said about a lot of the other star seeds or star families or star races, but this is fundamentally true for Sirians. This is actually a core mission for Sirian star beings and, by extension, Sirian starseeds in more than one way. Part of it includes scaring the ancient codes. Part of it is DNA activation. but they are inextricably connected to our evolution, both physically and spiritually. Evolution of the human race, spiritual education and protection, helping others reconnect with their core essence. They may be activists for animal or humanitarian rights, DNA encoded to help humanity evolve, but when the time is right. Carriers and teachers of ancient knowledge systems, spiritual development over multiple incarnations, and they may hold a karmic imprint involving multiple incarnations carrying out the same plan. Here are a few quick notes from the book Activate Your Cosmic DNA by Eva Marquez. Sirian star beings are seekers of truth and knowledge, scribes of ancient records, known for many uplifting spiritual ceremonies. They like to celebrate freedom in everything. Even their clothing is light, comfortable, and loose around their bodies. Sirian starseeds have beautiful, strong, and grounded warrior energy. They use sacred geometry in building their structures to amplify energies. A Sirian's EPC, is what she calls the Energy Power Center, is located in their sixth chakra, which is the Sirian's strongest psychic energy center in the third eye. In her book, she talks about the different chakras that this, quote, EPC, Energy Power Center, is located for each of the different star beings. And for the Sirian starseeds, it's in the third eye. She goes on to say, Sirian starseeds can communicate telepathically, they can remote view, and they can teletransport to different planes. They're resilient to negative energies and use a great amount of logic to solve everything. Sirian starseeds have brilliant minds. They need to learn to bring the energy from the mind into the entire physical body and practice, quote unquote, whole body intuition. And here's a few additional notes from the Prism of Lyra. Lyssa Holt talks about Sirian star beings as master geneticists. They could have had a past life as a channel, priest, or priestess, may have rescue tendencies, including their desire to save humanity. Talk about cosmic codependence. The long game, which refers to long-term goals or projects, provide the opportunity to stay focused on the task or tasks, commitment and integrity of the project, and thoroughness to completion. This allows you to eventually discharge the energy of commitment or the promise and energy that's tied up in the responsibility to fulfill a mission or goal. And finally, secrecy. A strong feeling that separation or secrecy was necessary in order to do the positive work without obstruction. These Sirian secret or covert projects were the original seeds of modern secret societies on Earth. With regard to Lyssa's point about the long game, the commitment to long-term goals and projects, and all of the energy that's tied up in that commitment, and the relief that you get from completing a project or completing a promise or fulfilling a commitment or finishing a mission. What can happen if you, say, have a lifetime where you didn't complete your assignment or you left there with a task list or to-do list that was still not finished, you might carry that sense of responsibility over into other lifetimes, including this one. And the way I explain this to clients is if you have unfinished business or unfulfilled commitments or whatever, especially when you take those things incredibly serious. So depending on what house it's in, depending on what the unfinished business was, what can happen is it creates drag in, let's say, this incarnation. It's kind of like if you're on a boat and you're fishing or you've got your anchor and it picks up a log and you're pulling this log behind the boat and it's literally creating drag in the water. It's kind of like that. So it can cause friction or blocks, or it can slow you down, or it feels like you're running behind. It can manifest in a lot of different ways for you in this life, as an example. We've now covered a ton of the spiritual and metaphysical aspects of the Sirius star beings and star seeds. Now let's circle back to one of their strongest practical traits, leadership. When I use this word in client readings, I get mixed responses, regardless of the specific star family I'm talking about. Same thing with the word creativity. As a society, we simply have a blanket understanding and consensus agreement on commonly used terms like leadership and creativity. And if you don't see yourself within this consensus understanding of whatever term we're talking about, then you may have a tendency to reject these skills as part of your full competencies. As a veteran, I have a very specific take on the topic of leadership, what it is, what it isn't. I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years and got out as a sergeant, and I was a corrections officer for another 5.5 years and got out as a corporal, so a jail supervisor. Leadership is one of my wheelhouses, which allows me to recognize it in others. When I see in someone's chart that they have strong leadership potential, or I see leadership markers, I'll let them know, this is what I see. But I don't just leave it at that, especially if they dismiss it. For me, leadership has nothing to do with your job title or being in charge of a group of 2 people or 200 people. It's not about that. Don't get me wrong, it takes some solid management skills to herd cats, but managers and supervisors are not automatically leaders, and leaders are not always in charge. So for me, leadership is way more about how you show up and carry yourself, how you lead people towards their goals, how you have their backs, how you support people in their journey, professional or otherwise. It's about whether you set others up for success or knowingly withhold details or resources that they may need to accomplish something. It also includes the question of whether you take responsibility for your actions or lean into excuses as a habit. You get the idea. Important questions to ask around this. If you're trying to figure out if you have leadership skills or if you're meant to step into leadership roles or if it's in you or if it's in your cards or if it's part of your path, let me pose a couple of questions to you that go beyond professional metrics and titles. Do people trust and respect you? Do they seek your counsel or your advice or your feedback? Do they feel safe around you and supported by you? If you can answer yes to any of those questions, then consider what other traits you have that you may be dismissing or minimizing or diminishing simply because you don't see yourself as a leader in the typical sense, because you don't have the job title or a large group of people to delegate the jobs to. The way I see it, people watch how you conduct yourself in a variety of situations. So look at how you handle your responsibilities, and it will start to reveal your leadership style and capacity. As you can see, the small sample of leadership qualities and behaviors has zero to do with your job title or any group size. You can truly lead anyone if you understand what that looks like. One of my favorite leadership principles from the Marine Corps is set the example. This is considered one of the Marine Corps' highest forms of leadership or highest demonstrations of leadership is the ability to set the example. We also had 14 leadership traits and 11 leadership principles that were guiding us. We had them memorized. So of the 11 leadership principles, set the example was always considered number one, first and foremost, hands down, without question. There are other things like know yourself and seek self-improvement. Know your Marines and look out for their welfare. So you can replace the word Marines with family. Know your family and look out for their welfare. Know your friends and look out for their welfare. Know your coworkers and look out for their welfare. Those are leadership principles. So now let's apply this to your life. As a parent, you can set the example for your family. As a teacher, you can set the example for your students. As a coworker, you can set the example for your peers. As a viewer of YouTube videos, you can set the example for others in the comment section by being thoughtful, respectful, and curious, and ignoring the trolls. Speaking of comments, if you've made it this far, do me a favor and comment below, I set the example for fill in the blank. I set the example for my family. I set the example for my friends. I set the example for crazy drivers on the road. I show people what not to do by avoiding speeding tickets. I hope you enjoyed this video and found something useful in this. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, humanity is a group project, so thanks for doing your part. Pew, 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 pew. Then the shots were fired. Pew, 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 pew. Destruction and chaos ensued. Hey, I'm Kellie. Hey, I'm Kellie. Hey, I'm Kellie. Stop. Sirius-B, also called Mirzam. Final answer. Whatever. Have you ever had someone try to heal you against your will? Against your will. Jesus, take the wheel? No, not that one. Here in Texas, the phrase they use is, I will pray for you. Shit. Of their true nature. The cetaceans. Cetaceans? 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 I'll dub that later. Dolphins and whales. Dolphins and whales. Cetaceans. Oh my. Why can't I say that? Man, I have read the crap out of this. I've literally highlighted at some point when you underline almost every paragraph of every page in a multi-100-page book. It just, what's the point? Okay, focus, Kellie. Simon the Magus. Simon the Magus? Magus? Magnus? Simon the Magus. Simon the Magus. Let's just go with Magus. Strong association with, where's that word again? Cetaceans? Cetaceans, dolphins and whales, aka dolphins and whales. Stop. Nope. Damn. And I learned this when I was doing, doesn't matter.